Hello, welcome back to the channel. So out of all the archetypes in the game right now, I feel like Break is in kind of a weird spot because it's not like Break is bad at all. I mean, Firefly, Boothill, and Rappa are all pretty good in different scenarios, but I do think that Break is starting to show its like sort of design problems and just kind of a problem with the archetype in general. Firstly, like the fact that if you can't break the enemy, you just cannot do any damage. And like with most enemies, you can do that fairly easily, like random like fodder enemies. But with a lot of like bosses and stuff, some of them either like block their break bar completely or attack so much that it's like hard to break them, since break doesn't have any action advance forward if you're using like a full like break team. It's like the only real like archetype that has to like fulfill some sort of condition to actually be allowed to do damage. The closest is maybe like Dot, but even then you could probably like apply dots faster and more like consistently than you can consistently break enemies. Also, with a lot of the bosses right now, Break is just not that good against, since they're like very fast, which Ronmei does kind of help with, but a lot of like bosses and stuff can either just like attack 2 turns in a row, or they're just like so many enemies that it just like doesn't really matter. And also like a lot of bosses just like spawn way more like adds and like minions now, which I do think is why Rappa is like probably doing the best out of all of the Break characters right now, since AoE is very good in the current content right now. Like Firefly has okay AoE, but most of her damage is still focused on like a main target, and Boothill has like basically no AoE at all, so he is not that great against a lot more of the recent bosses like the Flame Reaver, who just constantly spawns shadows all the time and who attacks a lot. Obviously, you know, he's definitely better in Apocalyptic Shadow, but I'll talk about that later. Another big problem is just like how restrictive Break is, especially with Remembrance MC out now, since if you want to use Harmony MC, then you can't use Remembrance MC, which, you know, Remembrance MC is really good on a lot of teams, like, you know, like with Casterus, or with like Aglaya, or with just in general, because true damage is just kind of broken. And I'll be honest, I do feel like you should be allowed to use one form of the MC per side, but at least the way it works right now, if you want to use Remembrance MC and Break at the same time, you need to have Feud, because Super Break is just the main way that Break does damage, because the normal breaks are just not that good. And like, since Feud came out like right before 3.0, not a lot of people have her, and then even when she got reran, she reran when Casterus came out, so she's kind of been done dirty with the timing. But even just besides like Super Break, the only other break option for supports is Ronmei, and like that's kind of it. So you basically have to have like 2 5-star supports if you want to actually play Break and use Remembrance MC, and even then it's still gonna kind of struggle. Like maybe you could use like Hunt March with like a Break build as like a sub DPS in place of Ronmei, since Super Break is like the most important part. But even then, not having Ronmei feels like so much worse, especially with how, like, you know, like I said, how fast a lot of enemies are now, and just because you can get more value out of Super Break in general, and you don't have to just constantly re-break enemies to actually be able to do damage. But at the same time, like, even though Break doesn't have that many options, I don't really know if I want another Break character, just because of how oversaturated it got so fast. Like, why did we get 3 Break DPSs? Like, 2 was already enough. Like, why did we get 3, man? Like, come on. Like, at least with something like Follow-Up, it felt like kind of different with all like the different sort of characters that we got. And it feels like there's more you can do with Follow-Up. And even like most of the new characters, I feel like there's like just way more that you can do with Memo Sprites. But all of the Break DPSs, even though they do play differently from each other, like, you know, Boothill is a lot more like single target, like nuke focused, Rappa is a lot more like AoE, they all just kind of feel like they have the same exact play pattern, which is just break the enemy and then just nuke them with as much Super Break damage as possible. It just feels like it just plays the same every single time, which makes Break just feel like the most boring of all of the archetypes and team comps right now. Like, it is like the only one that is reliant on a mechanic that the enemies have rather than something that the characters have, which just makes it feel less like an active thing that a lot of other teams do right now. It doesn't help that a lot of like the elemental breaks just kind of suck. Like Fire Break is not that good, since Bird just isn't very good as like a dot thing. Imaginary Break is okay since it slows enemies, but it's still not that great for actually doing damage. Quantum Break is really bad, and is one of the main reasons why Shui isn't that good, is because Entanglement just doesn't do that much damage because of just like the way it stacks. Like, it should stack more than like 5 times, like, come on. The best one is probably like Physical Break, since Bleed is pretty good and can do a lot of damage, especially with a lot of like break effect and attack. But none of them I would say are like that good, which does make Break super like reliant on Super Break to do some actual damage, which like I said, makes it just feel kind of the same every single time. So I think that like breaking and just like toughness in general and just kind of like the element system in general is just kind of starting to matter less and less. Because a lot of the new characters can either just break regardless of element, which just makes break as an archetype feel like less special, or they just do so much damage that they just don't really care what the element of the enemy is because they're just gonna beat them anyway. Example of this is like Herda, or like Casterus, or Maide, or like basically any of the 3.0 characters. Also, just because of how the current content is and how much it like favors a lot of the newer characters, stuff like Break and even like Follow-Up with stuff like Facial is starting to feel like it can't keep up as well. Especially with like MOC. MOC is like the big one. They are definitely, a lot of these characters are definitely doing way better in Apocalyptic Shadow, since that mode has way more options in what you can do, and I think it is just a better mode in general. But like, it's not like Break doesn't have a place. It's not like Dot or something where it's just kind of just been abandoned. Like, it did get stuff. It's just like starting to like show like the flaws with the Break system in general. Now, I do think the one that is definitely benefiting the most from a lot of the new content is Rappa, which is kind of ironic since everyone said that Rappa was the worst Break character at the time, and she definitely was at the time, just because of like how the content was. Rappa just does so well into a lot of the content because of how many more enemies there are like at all times. Not even just with like the bosses, but like example, those like stone enemies that spawn a bunch of other enemies at the same time, and just AoE being really good. I mean, basically every single 3.0 character we've gotten has had AoE, because AoE is just the most valuable thing you can have right now, which both Boothill and Firefly do struggle with. Firefly not as much, but does definitely struggle with it sometimes, even if she is still like in a fine spot. And that is, I think, the main thing with Break, is that like, it is fine. Break is like good. You can definitely beat the content with Break. It's not like Break is bad. It just kind of feels like Break is being held back by the inherent design of it and the lack of options. Which, like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't even want more Break characters, like I said before, because it just got so oversaturated. Like, maybe like a Break support, like Ron May, I do think that could be interesting. Maybe just give like Break something new, because it's just been Super Break ever since it came out, so maybe we could get like a new Break mechanic. I think that could actually work. At the end of the day, I do think that Break is just falling behind because of the design of the content and just the elements and the toughness system just not mattering as much anymore. And I mean, I do still enjoy playing Break. I mean, I have both Firefly and Rappa, and I do use them both. But there are just characters who can just do what Break wants to do now, but just way better. If you want like a nuke sort of playstyle, then just use like Maide or like Herda. They just do what Break wants to do, but just way better and way more consistently. And they can actually do damage if they don't break something, you know? But I don't know, what do you guys think about Break? Let me know in the comments below, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.